All right, folks, welcome back. My name is Timmy. Rudy. My name is something. You're watching Alpha Investments. Hope you're all having a beautiful day. Today, we turn to the world of the flesh and bloods, and we discuss a market update per you guys' request. And Rudy, it's been like 10, 15 days. I know. I haven't done any box openings. A lot going on, man. I will return to box openings, I promise, but I got a list of questions and comments from you all to talk about flesh and blood. I'm going to give you all my opinion. First, high seas in the hunted. It appears Flesh and Blood and LSS and James is sticking by the very specific, strict instructions to not overprint, allow the market to have multiple reprints and restocks in the United States. And the company is continuing to keep a very strict and very tight grasp on the supply of sealed product in the United States. Rumor is, essentially, how they're pulling this off, at least from the rumors on the internet, is that essentially they're increasing supply of sealed product to other countries around the world. For example, Japan, Europe, different other countries. And because of this, they are able to still print and produce enough product and revenue generating for the company and success long term, but they're also creating more stability in the United States, the U.S. Western markets. Seems like a pretty smart, straightforward thing. Seems to be working. Now, of course, this is all coming at the expense of the company continues to take a lot of heat from the Gamepiece army. Flesh and Blood for many, many years now. I won't say many, many years. We crossed our 5-year anniversary in Flesh and Blood. I'd say the last probably 2 to 3 years of the 5-year company existence, they've been very clear that, a lot of these tier 1 playable competitive cards need to be available and need to be accessible for people to, because Flesh and Blood is hardcore on organized play, the nice circuit, the tournament scene around the world, all the different events from worlds to callings and just even local armories. And they're very serious on their organized play, which everybody agrees has helped the company with, navigating bear markets and problems in the past and continues to allow them to be very successful. Now, and of course, we got to go back to the other side now. So, we are not seeing a let-up of the Gamepiece player base anger towards the company on availability, on playable, really, I don't want to say important, but a lot of people say just pretty much cards that are required to have a play set or cards that are required to be in a deck to even be remotely competitive. Most of these cards, as you all know, are going to be in the Majestic slot. Some of these super strong stuff are going to be, in the Legendary slot. Well, because of that, a lot of people are frustrated because the pool of Majestics in recent sets is incredibly high. It's not like there's 5 Majestics in a set and you get 5 Majestics in a box. The quantity of Majestics is massive. So for people trying to get a specific Majestic, you have to open a lot of product. People trying to get a play set of maybe a generic or something, you got to open a lot of boxes. So then you layer in, as Flesh and Blood has some unique characteristics to the product long term. And that is, as Flesh and Blood sealed product ages, historically, many of the powerful heroes pretty much living legend out. Living legend means they win so many tournaments, essentially they become banned kind of thing. So for those of you who don't know what's going on, I keep it very basic. There's more details to it, but that's it. Essentially, it makes a lot of the cards long term within the set become less desirable as the product ages, creating a very bizarre dynamic that we've never seen in CCGs. Now, this seems to be shifting, though, because if you look at recent Fab 2.0 sets, Dynasties, Dusk Till Dawn, even Outsiders, if you look at some of these sets, before we go into the Rosetta, Hunted, and the High Seas, which are all accelerating faster than normal because of a very tight stranglehold on print run. Now, whether you guys think that's right or wrong, that's a very arguable thing right now. But when you look at some of the older ones that did have tons of supply in the U.S. market, nobody really wanted those boxes for the longest time. Stores, and it was pretty much a spiral of frustration because stores couldn't list them because the price would drop and everything was below MAP pricing. Then stores would get angry because they try to sell this dead inventory on their books and they'd get in trouble for lowering the price because of the market conditions. So it created this very bizarre situation that was unique to map pricing in Flesh and Blood. Obviously, none of that means anything anymore. All of this has been solved. You're never going to hear a conversation about map pricing ever again because, well, I mean, no, it doesn't mean anything. Nobody cares anymore. The market is so strong and the demand for sealed product is so high and the availability is so limited, you might as well just be removed from the company's policy because it's never going to be a thing again. I mean, you'd have to ramp the print runs, double them, and then, of course, you water down the power level and try to tank the market with multiple reprints just to even get that back in that direction. I don't ever see that becoming an issue moving forward. So, which, again, is a positive because nobody wants to be in a situation where you're running a business, you need money, you've got boxes of Flesh and Blood and employees and overhead and payroll. You can't sell them because you get in trouble. You can't lower the price because you get in trouble. If you leave the price higher, you can't sell it. And you've got, again, a nasty situation where nobody wins. The company's upset because you're fire selling their product. The store's upset because they need capital to pay their bills. So you have everybody angry at everybody. Shit doesn't work, bro. So, what does that mean moving forward? So, I don't know how the company's going to solve certain problems. I don't even know if they're, yeah, I guess they're problems. I would say certain just hot topic concerns between Majestics and certain playable cards. Does the company lower the rarity of some of these hardcore Majestics that are real powerful and required from Majestic to rare? And in Flesh and Blood, rare essentially means uncommon. So it allows people to tank the price and get access to the card? And then do you replace it where the Majestics and Fabled have a flashier version? So you have an expensive chase version for collectors and evil investors, and then you have a cheap playable version. You know, do you take that kind of approach? Do you offer very similar cards at common and rare slot, and then make it slightly better? Maybe one extra pitch or one extra resource, or there's one extra difference. But then again, people are going to say if you want best in slot, you got to have the chase card. Sometimes a difference between one little resource or one card has go again and one card doesn't. I mean, it may not sound like much to you guys listening to this, but if you're I'm not even a hardcore player. I know the basics of Flesh and Blood to play. The reality is I don't get to play any card games, and it's kind of fucking sad. I don't get to play Magic, Pokemon, Flesh and Blood. I actually played a game of Weiss about a year ago with a couple people. I actually thought it was really fun. And even One Piece, actually, I mean, a lot of these games are fun, but when you're at a certain point in this industry, you don't get to enjoy things, and it's kind of a shitty thing. It's just, that's the reality of business and finance when you get to a certain level. So it's very complicated. And then we go to that topic of the heroes with the living legend, everything. Like when you look at older things like Monarch or Tales or even some of the Fab 2.0 sets as we start to age and move forward, and some of these heroes become, well, not less desirable, but they're forced to be, you can't play with them in organized play. Even if they get more support in that class, you're going to have to use a new hero from the same class or something, or maybe there's going to be new classes in the future, which there always will be. It gets wonky. So in other words, there's this attitude in Flesh and Blood where on the store distribution business side, if you don't sell your boxes within 3 months of release, the box collapses. That was the mentality and the mindset for like 2 to 3 years. That was the attitude of everybody. And I think the reason for that was because, well, after release, distribution would have more pallets, or maybe there'd be another wave in the US, and the demand dropped off substantially because the type of people who buy Flesh and Blood in the US are hardcore players and single buyers. They are single card buyers. The amount of collectors and evil investors in the sealed product of Flesh and Blood world, and the investors for chase cards or variants or marvels or full arts or extended arts or cold foils or anything, is not that great. It's not zero, but it's definitely lower than, let's say, Magic and Pokemon. Pokemon, by far, probably even One Piece, is by far the largest player base, or I'm not saying, the largest base of people who are collectors and investors. The largest base of investors in the card world, hands down, is Pokemon. There is not any other card game that's anywhere near the level of most people buying Pokemon. I'd be even willing to bet in 2025 like 75 to 80% of Pokemon sales are to like investors and adults. Like it's very, very high. Like I think like 5% is to like kids under 18. I think maybe 10% for actually adults and regular people who want to play the game. It's the investor base of Pokemon is unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's never been that high in any other card game in history. Now, what does that mean? Are we in the greatest bubble of all time with Pokemon? Is it going to collapse? You know, you get to all these weird things. And then, of course, if it does collapse, all that money that flees, are they going to go to Flesh and Blood and Magic? Is it going to sit in cash? Is it going to go back to traditional investing? Or is it just going to ripple through the industry and everything collapses? Like a, kind of a systemic thing or a systematic, like a big, drawdown of everything. We don't know. But the Flesh and Blood thing, it feels like with the print run thing, it is frustrating. Because even for me, like I have, on every release now, we'll sell 1,000 patron kits of the new Flesh and Blood set. You get your sealed case. You get a really cool promo card. It's graded slab, so it's protected during shipping. You get to see what the PCG thing is. You get to see the metal laser engraved. And it's been a huge success. We've been doing it now for many sets. And it is something that people look forward to every couple months. It is a huge patron thing. It's been that way for years. I've carried every Flesh and Blood set since the beginning. And I can tell you from someone who's been around since day one, and I've been through all the ups and downs, that, the last few sets compared to a few years ago, it's like a whole different world. The buyers, their attitudes are different. The demand is different. The kind of the morale and the emotion around it is very different. How people are treating the game is very different. But yeah, there are still things that haven't really been solved. There are situations where as Flesh and Blood sealed product ages, how do you make the sealed product of some of the older cards? You don't need to collapse them. They don't need to skyrocket, but keep them like sustainable and stable. How do you do that when you have things like the Living Legend business model for organized play and different things like that? It gets really wonky. I mean, are they going to create a different format in the future? Are there going to be different interactions with older cards? Are there going to be... We don't know what creative method can be used, but overall, it doesn't seem like a massive problem, but it's definitely something that still comes up in conversations when people ask me questions about Flesh and Blood. But I still think, as a whole, for some of the problems that need to be solved in modern fab, overall, the game, the management, and the brand in the last 6 months, I mean, no matter how you feel, I know, Rudy, I don't care what you say. The only cold foil was in the golden pack. So if you go to an event and the Snow City, Moon City Games keeps all the golden packs and everybody in the tournament gets just booster boxes, the amount of value drawn out for these people is substantial because there's no cold foil. You have to have the golden pack kind of thing. There's all these, whether that was intentional, something happened along the way, I have no idea. So there's speculation that the reason LSS did that is there's a printing issue, and essentially they went back and just added a golden pack to it. There's other people said that they're experimenting with a different thing. There's other people like me that says I have no fucking clue what the real reason is, but clearly the market does not seem to like that. But, treasure, the bottom of the box, treasure, and it fits the theme of the set. Obviously, based on the market's feedback, we're probably never going to see that kind of thing again. Or if we see another treasure pack in a box, it'll probably be designed differently. I still think it was a pretty cool thing. I got nothing negative to say about it. But yes, it does create an interesting thing because in situations with stores and organized play, if you take out the one golden pack and people are paying to enter a tournament or a draft and you don't have that, the financial difference on the cards is very drastic on the calculations of the expected value of the packs in the box versus a sealed box. At the end of the day, it still feels like Flesh and Blood continues to solve a lot of their problems. And obviously everybody knows it's a great game, but sure, it has problems like everything else. But see, I feel like Fab gets such a... I feel like they're treated worse than some of the other games. Like, let me pause the Flesh and Blood conversation. Let me give you guys an example here. Let me give you a very short 10-second example. Magic the Gathering created the expensive-ass collector box in 2019. Just like Flesh and Blood, I've carried and have inventory of every collector box ever made. It's been 6 years. It took Wizards of the Coast the first 4 of the 6 years of tweaking, modifying, slots, serialized cards, Surge foil, Galaxy foil, extended art, showcase, Rudy case, your face is ugly. All these things. It took Wizards making all these products for 4 years before they struck the sweet spot of collector boxes. And they're still overpriced, but nothing we can all do. That's the market, and that's how much, when Wizards is charging $300 for Universes Beyond wholesale, why are people surprised that they're $600 to $1,000? The wholesale cost of $300. Hell, MSRP gang is probably $600 now. But when you look at this stuff, you can see that every time Wizards made sets, they would tweak things. And of course, a lot of them collapsed. A lot of people lost a lot of money. In the bear market, I was easily down $1 to $2 million in sealed Magic the Gathering collector box inventory. So back to Flesh and Blood. LSS, James, management, the company, they had Fab 2.0 come out. Why? Because they didn't like what was happening with the original design that, James and the company came up with, which was the whole first edition Unlimited. That was the whole thing that was pitched to me in the market in the beginning. There was, I'm telling you, at the very beginning, there was not plans to scrap that and redo it. In 2018, before the game came out, in 2019, when WTR launched, there was never conversation that, hey, in 2.5 years, Rudy, we're going to scrap the whole fucking thing and restructure it. I assure you all, that was not the intention of the company. But what happens is, you have to tweak, and there's nothing wrong with making mistakes and tripping, something bad. The difference is how you respond, how you move on. Just because there were things in the past of Flesh and Blood that went to the moon and were super successful. There were things in the past of Flesh and Blood that bombed and clearly didn't work out at all, no matter who you want to blame and people involved. There are things that just didn't work. It was a shit show. And then the difference is between companies that just fail and go to zero and just fuck it and, wipe out the bank account and just take off. You know who I'm talking about. Many card games in 2021 did that. Flesh and Blood didn't do that. LSS, the management, leadership, kept making tweaks. They adjusted print runs. They adjusted rarities. They invented extended art cards, more hidden inside the set. They invented Marvel cards, double-sided cold foil. They streamlined rare to majestic or super rare. They got rid of the super rare slot to just rare, majestic, legendary fable. There's been a lot of constant tweaks. They tried in Dusk Till Dawn, serialized sketch cards. Beautiful cards, if you can find one. Prism. They did things where, look at Wizards. They had collector boxes with Lost Legends. They got serialized cards. They got hidden subsets. You can see each game in each company. It's not whether or not they're succeeding or failing. It's the attitude of, are they continuing to try to find what works? And sometimes you try something and you go like this. Well, shit, that didn't work. Fuck, everybody hates me. Let's not do that again. Other times it's like, you know what? Let's flip this coin. If this lands over, let's try this. It doesn't seem that great. You execute it, and the market loves it. And you go, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't expect that to be that successful. This is why I talk about when it comes to management, game design, R&D runway space, how much development, how much runway do you have to go in different directions? And while everybody right now is focused on pretty much the number one thing, some of the playable Majestics are impossible to get, they're too expensive, and you can't crack more boxes in the US, right? That's probably the number one issue that people are talking about with Flesh and Blood. And I assure you all, without sitting down and talking to James and LSS and management, they know this stuff. If I know it and you know it, I guarantee you they know it. These people go to the events around the world. These people travel. They're not sitting in Florida going 7 days a week sniffing cardboard like me. These people travel, go to the events, they're listening, they talk to you all, they interact, they have Q&As, they're on the floor of convention centers for 10 hours a day. They know what's going on. So to pretend like, well, these idiots, they're rich and they don't care, they already made their... Stop, that's stupid, man. Don't be a Timmy. That's not real. They know what the issues are. That's why they continuously tweak things. And sometimes it works better than expected. Other times you go, well, shit. Everybody's really pissed about the gold pack and the cold. It's in there. And if you take the gold pack out, the value's real low. Well, damn, I didn't see that coming. Or maybe they did, but they want to try it. The difference in this industry long term is not what works or fails. It's how you learn from each move on the chessboard. When you move a certain strategy and you think you hit it big, and all of a sudden on the chessboard your opponent counteracts with some weird strategy, and you have no idea what's going on, and then you're forked against a rook and a queen, or you're checked and you're forked with your queen, or some stupid thing happens. Then you go, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. Maybe I should change. We're not going to do that again. What have I learned? And that has a lot of value. Like I said, that's why I'm picking on Wizards of the Coast and the Magic Collector box. These things failed and collapsed, and people like me lost fortunes sitting on these things. And then years later, markets evolved. They tweaked the product. Sure, they raised prices and everybody's angry, but it doesn't matter. You take your emotions out of it. The data shows it's firing on all cylinders. The data on Flesh and Blood shows right now, Flesh and Blood is having consumer growth again. The player base is growing. Now, we can all argue by how much it's growing. 1%, 5%, 8%, double digit, 10, 15%. I don't have that answer. I don't have that data. We can say how many people register for organized play and go by the count. We can say how many people show up. We can go by, we don't know. But what I can tell you is the company in Flesh and Blood is moving in a better direction. Now, of course, some of you are going to say, Rudy, it's too late. Fuck them. They already screwed up. Collectors got, James White declared war on investors. I've heard it all for years. You guys have blown me the fuck up on emails for years. I've heard it all. I'm just here to tell you what I see happening now is extremely encouraging. And that is, yes, we've all made mistakes. We're all humans. I'm a meat popsicle. We're all humans. The difference is how we evolve, how we move forward. And right now, the game has some problems, like every other living game in the world. But overall, there are more things being done right than being done wrong. There are more things that have been fixed compared to the things left to be fixed. The trajectory in the direction, the momentum is very positive. Now, obviously, I wish it would be better. I wish it started sooner. I wish we could have avoided certain things. But that's just life. The world went through a lot of shit in the last 5 years. And hopefully now, with more stability in the world, can we say that? How many wars are there? Doesn't everybody hate everybody? I don't know. But it just seems like the game and the brand is on a better path today. I can tell from the attitude of you all, the patrons, the buyers, honestly, the secondary market in the United States, which again, for sealed product is very difficult to judge because there's barely any of it listed. It's very, very difficult to get data on sealed product on Flesh and Blood in the US. If you go even on high seas, you go on an eBay, a TCG player, or even you Google it, just look at independent websites, you will see some boxes, but there's just not much listed. And because Flesh and Blood's a bizarre animal. And again, many of these stores, or I'd say hundreds of stores in the US, refuse to even list sealed product of Flesh and Blood on eBay TCG player because of the MAP pricing era. So many of these stores will never list it, period. I know because they told me that. Hence why they've contacted me. I'll communicate to some of these people, and they're like, no way, I will never list sealed fab again because of what happened in the past. It's a thing. But it doesn't mean there's not activity because it's not on eBay or something. And if you convert over to single cards, well, there's a lot of movement. And I think what's happening is because of the situation and because everybody knows these new fab sets come out in the United States and then we have no second, third wave reprint restock, I think what's happening is most people are either keeping the sealed boxes, and I also think most stores and distribution is selling to stores, and I think stores are getting 20 boxes, 40 boxes, 60 boxes, maybe 100 boxes. I think most stores are cracking the boxes because, well, if you're into the Flesh and Blood world, there is a tremendous business model in singles to secondary market. If you buy 120 Flesh and Blood boxes of a new set, you crack all the boxes, and you go to conventions and organized play or your LGS, and you have all these single cards that are really desirable, and they sell really easily, you're probably going to make a lot of money. You can build a business around it. You can sell singles online. You can go to conventions and get a booth as a store or a business. You can go to low. I mean, there's a lot of options. And quite frankly, it's probably more profitable than just selling a sealed box of high C's for, I don't know, 130, 140 bucks. You see what I'm saying? So that's a good overview for me rambling there for about 10 minutes. I don't know how you solve the majestic and the living legend of some of that stuff for products and long term. That's outside my wheelhouse of game design. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I don't know specifically what the best way to do is, but I know they're aware of it, and I know they have to be having brainstorming things, meetings. The management has to be discussing it, and I'm sure eventually they will figure something out. Now, that also leads me to the Rudy investor speculation side. We have to assume a few things. If something eventually updates, shifts, formats, rules, if anything changes, if anything evolves, anything happens, and there's a positive update or uptick to any of these topics, the ripple effect on certain products, like even the Monarch Tales Everfest block era, some of that stuff, even today, 4-year-old boxes for 50, or not 50, I guess for $60 to $70 a box now. You know, when you start talking boxes of a game that's still around and doing really well, and these boxes are still let's say 70 bucks with shipping and tax online. A $70 box that's approaching 5 years old, it's going to be interesting to see, are these boxes going to be 10 years old and still $70? I mean, as we all joke about, Magic the Gathering, 94, 95, Fallen Empires was the worst set ever. They used to give the boxes away. I remember getting Fallen Empire boxes for $20, 1995. I'll be like, oh, great. I remember Paul and Judy's and Dave and Adam's Card World would give free boxes of Fallen Empires, not packs, boxes, for just placing orders with them. And even those garbage boxes of Fallen Empires went from $20, $30, $40. Even today, they're $500 to $700 a box. And the art's cool. It's nostalgic. But there's zero value in the sets. It's just simply old. And no matter how you all feel about Tales of Aria, for example, I mean, the cards are fucking beautiful. They are really cool. There's a lot of cool shit in it. And if this game continues doing what it looks like it's going to do, you can't have a 10, 15-year-old box at $50, $60, $70. It will not happen. It will not happen. It will get repriced, or an actual event or a headline or a press release or something will impact the market, and you will see changes in the future. So my thing is, just like we're seeing now with Flesh and Blood, you know, I was at the premiere, the world premiere with Rosetta in Tampa, Florida. We had a PCG booth. It was awesome. It was a really cool event. Met tons of you guys. I mean, I think we did, what did we do? 600? 800? I think we did like almost 1,000 slabs and 1,000 cards were submitted at PCG just in the 2 days of the event. It was wild, man. And it was a blast. So many cool things, vendors, people, blah, blah, blah. But I can tell you, even at that moment in time of the launch of Rosetta, even at that moment, nobody understood or thought for a second what was coming the next 6 to 9 months later. The Hunted, High Seas. Nobody for a split second, including me, I'm not going to act like I knew, including me, nobody fully grasped what LSS and James and management were doing and what was coming with the new sets. I thought Rosetta, everybody called it Tales of Aria 2.0 and told me, oh, Rosetta's going to tank and be shit and everything. And I was like, this is a really fucking beautiful product. And of course, you know, the Rosetta Thorn, this is a lot of cool shit, man. And then people realize that, wow, they're being serious on the print runs here. Wow, some of these cards are really strong and really beautiful. And suddenly the tone slowly started to pivot. And then the Hunted came out, people went crazy and realized, oh shit. And then by the time High Seas hit, it was just straight panic. So, being at Tampa, at the World with the Rosetta thing, I can tell you all, the attitude in the air and the perspective of you all in the public was not it was not ready and expecting for what was coming. Now, whether that was LSS redesigned their game design, power level, art, fired people, hired people, changed things. I don't follow all that stuff. I don't have information. I'm a dude in Florida that, I just try to spend time with the family and try to run the business with you guys. I don't have a huge team of employees. There is no secret stuff. All you patrons, when you message me, I'm the only person responding. There's not a team of people doing it. There's no secret thing. It's just me, folks. And, in that Tampa, Florida Rosetta event, the vibe was very different than it is even today. The vibe today is like a different world, even from just a couple sets ago, because that's how fast things can change. And the problem is, by the time the public reacts, it's usually too late if you don't think for yourself. And at this point in time, I don't know a lot of things going on behind the scenes with Flesh and Blood. I don't have information. I'm not in New Zealand's headquarters. I'm not doing it. But, when you release Misty to Rosetta, to the Hunted, to High Seas, and every single thing has been just absolutely wild and beautiful and successful, and the events, and there are more people. I mean, I'm not... yeah, sure. We got problems with the Gamepiece army. We got problems with MSRP gang. We got problems with Majestics and single card. Dude, you can't expect people to pay $1,000 for a competitive deck, right? Right? Or, wait, is that supposed to be that way? Is that supposed to be that way, or is it not supposed to be that way? Aren't collectible card games supposed to be expensive and chase cards? I don't know. We're in a blurred lines world, because in the entire 30 years of Magic, and soon to be Pokemon 30 years, it was always about the secondary market in cards. It wasn't really until the last few years that this MSRP gang and that Gamepiece thing and that the internet culture has pivoted so much. Sure, things can be extreme. Sure, but let me tell you something. 10 to 12 years ago, I was around in Magic the Gathering when Modern went crazy. Modern Masters 1 was invented in 2012 or 13, whatever it was. I think 2013. And suddenly Jace the Mind Sculptor was a $150 card or something. Or Tarmogoyf went from $5 to $150 to $200. And you need to play sets of these things. So you had to spend $1,000 on Jaces or $1,000 on Tarmogoyfs. I mean, what is happening, no matter how you have the emotional reaction, is not unusual and is really not that outside the realm of normality. Is that a word? Fuck it, it is now. It's just how this is the card world. Now, of course, Wizards took a strong stance on the Gamepiece thing, and they utterly obliterated all modern single card values. And then Wizards of the Coast and Magic went through 5-10 years of struggles on lower and lower print runs and issues because they couldn't sell the product. The cards didn't have value. Remember, in Magic, it's all about utility, just like Flesh and Blood, right? It's about the power and utility of playing the game. Collecting and investing is secondary. It's not Pokemon, folks. But they, Wizards and Magic has paid some huge prices and deal with a lot of fuck-ups. So, it's just, I'm not sure I know this is going to piss people off, but I'm going to end the video here. I'm not sure how serious and how bad the problems are with Flesh and Blood with the secondary market in reality. I know that's just going to make some people's heads pop off and you're going to be a tumbleweed rolling down the road. But historically, in 30 years of cards, I've been in this industry for over 20 years. I've been with distribution for almost 20 years. I've been doing this shit I'm old now. Look at my early videos. I look like a young kid. Now I look like your grandfather. Come on over here. Wait, what was the Family Guy? The creepy guy in the basement. Come on down to the basement and get yourself a popsicle. I got a fresh... Yeah. To be old. And it's like, I don't know if the noise online correctly aligns with, is this really a big problem or not? Because some people do mess with me and say, Rudy, I don't see a problem if some of the Majestics are $20, $30, $40, $50, $60. Now, sure, if the Majestic goes to $50 to $100 a card and you need 4 of them, that could be $300 for a playset, right? Playset and Fab, I believe, is 3, not 4 like Magic. But, yeah, it's expensive. LSS sees that, and they can reprint it or do something or maybe make another slot or, I don't know, downgrade the rarity and collapse it. But is that the correct solution? Or do they say, hey, that card, that generic everyone's using seems to be, you have to use that to be competitive. Why don't we make another card that's an alternative replacement of an equal to or better power level, careful on the power creep, to try to take the demand off the card to soften, maybe people will then sell that and buy the new one. It's a very wonky thing, everybody. But I'm just here to remind you all, I am not convinced that some of the problems when it comes to secondary market singles, I'm not convinced it's truly a major problem. And I know that makes me the bad guy. And you guys are immediately going to turn around and say, well, yeah, because you got fuck you Rudy money. You don't care. You don't know what it's like to be, Timmy slinging Taco Bell. Okay? I mean, whatever. But the business aspect of randomized cards and booster packs and CCGs is a very fickle, complicated industry that I don't think people the public doesn't fully grasp what's involved behind the scenes on management and the money and the revenues and the print runs and the power levels and the reprints and the rarities and the supply. And it's a very complicated living organism. In an era of social media, everybody wants to simplify things to card expensive, I'm angry, I can't afford it, fuck this, I quit the game. And for some people, yeah, if you can't afford it, you probably are going to be forced to quit the game or not play with that card or proxy and fake cards, or you're going to jump to another card game, right? There's all these, if-then, almost like a threat. Well, if LSS doesn't print more and lower the price, I'm quitting. If they don't do this, I'm doing this. You get into ultimatums. You get into that kind of stuff. And historically, I don't recommend that kind of attitude towards anything in life because it usually doesn't work out well. Making threats or ultimatums, if you don't give me this, I'm going to do this to you. I don't really recommend that. It doesn't, I always say a true friend and a true person that cares about you is going to be honest with you. Even if they hurt your feelings, and even if it's not what you want to hear. In the short term, it may piss you off, but in the long term, that's someone that truly cares about you. That's someone who cares about maybe your company, your brand, or whatever. Even if you guys get in arguments, you don't like each other, things happen. It's important to be honest on certain emotions and things. And again, that's why I tell you, Flesh and Blood has not been perfect. It's had all kinds of fucking problems and speed bumps. So is everything else in life. Doesn't make it unique or a special snowflake. It's all had fucking problems. But, as long as the game focuses on the actual game, making beautiful cards, beautiful artwork, doesn't get involved in stupid things, and just make good products at proper print levels, proper distribution, nature should take its course and it should work out in the long term. That's my attitude on it, okay? That's just my closing statement to you all. For those who are going to watch this video long term, sorry it's a long video, but again, I'm going to end this video on this comment of, yes, there are concerns with Flesh and Blood, but I'm not sure how big these problems really are. I'm not sure if people complaining about threatening to quit or threatening this towards a company or this and that, I'm selling my collection if this or if they don't do that. It's a collectible card game. You're supposed to chase the cards. You're supposed to desire cards you don't have, and the cards are supposed to be desirable, and some of them are supposed to be expensive. I think our culture loses sight of all that. Because again, it's a game, right? So, hope you guys learned something today. Hope this helps you guys think for yourselves. As always, have a beautiful day. L. Penis.